Hi, everyone. We're going to start in just a couple of seconds. So just welcoming everyone to the webinar today. I see the numbers growing, so we're good. Welcome everybody. All right, so we'll kick off as you're joining the webinar. Yes, so welcome to today's webinar around connecting your research findings with Protolyst. We have Maddy and Richard with us today, as well as Nicholas. So will be a really exciting session. Before we go on, I will go over some logistics. Let's see. So obviously check your visual and audio settings. You should be hearing me. I'm speaking. If you cannot, I'd kindly ask you to try and rejoin the session or change your settings. If you have any questions, do put them in the Q&A box and we'll answer them at the end. If there are any that we can answer throughout the sessions, we'll do that as well. And anything that we won't be able to answer, we'll try to follow up and answer all the questions you have in the follow-up blog. We will be recording this session and we'll be sharing the recording with everyone that registered, and the video will also be available on YouTube afterwards. So I see we've got about a few people. So what I'll do now is, as we're gonna wait a bit more, we're gonna have a little. Oh, we already have a question. Will the session be 1 hour? Yes. So what we'll do now is we'll just kick off with a little bit of a chat. So we'll ask you a couple of questions. So question number one, what might be some of the tools that you are already using to connect your research findings? Maybe any tools you use for project management, or for managing your knowledge. You can put that in the chat. I know I use a bunch of tools. I use yeah, for research purposes, teaching purposes, and Vivo. Okay, for qualitative analysis, good. I use a bit of everything. I tried Notion before. Confidence, QDA Minor, outside help. That's always helpful. Atlas TI, yeah. Max QDA. So are you all using these to kind of keep your knowledge? So when you're researching the literature as well as kind of running qualitative interviews, Evernote. Oh, Evernote is still around. Okay. Trello is good. How about challenges? What challenges are you still having? What's still difficult to do or you're kind of struggling to do? No challenges? Should we take that as all problems of managing knowledge and research projects solved? Different types of resources. Okay, struggle conforming bibliographies and reference lists, coding and analyzing themes and sub-themes. Okay, not, yeah, some are still not as user-friendly. Great. And with that little icebreaker, I'll hand over to Maddy and Richard to take over and share with us what can Protolyst do.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Daniela. And hello and welcome to everybody. It's wonderful to have you here. It's good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. So today I'm going to be going through a little bit about Protolyst, as well as a bit of a demo tutorial as to how you can start using it for things like data coding in qualitative research. But first of all, I'll give you a little bit of background on Protolyst, kind of who we are, what we do, where we've come from. So really what we are doing with Protolyst is, giving people the ability to connect information through integrating like a productivity platform with some of the capabilities that are within qualitative analysis. Because other industries don't tend to do that piece of coming in at that very granular level of detail to organize their information. And there's really huge benefits to doing that, which can help you with, finding the information you want as and when you need it, which is always a challenge, and being able to build your knowledge over time, because we often, gather information days, months, years earlier that's relevant to us when we're doing different projects that we might want to add newer information to as we're going. And really kind of why we set up Protolyst is because, well, knowledge in isolation is not really very useful to you. So we built the system so that you could start to pull your information together, so that you can accelerate your ability to collate data and reorganize it in different ways so that you can actually apply and use your information. And we are scientists by background, so there's a fair few kind of nods to scientific terminology within the platform, which we'll go through shortly. But really, Protolyst, the name, comes from this whole concept of wanting to accelerate, kind of bringing early stages of understanding together. And that's very much what we do. And since we've started, we've worked with lots of different users and clients in various different industries. Sorry, let me make that bigger. In various different industries, all the way from, making informed decisions in areas like angel investing, collecting information on companies together, through to consulting groups who are kind of doing market research with very specific questions to answer for their clients, as well as academic researchers who have just a huge amount of information to pull together and use to kind of come up with novel ideas. And over the last year, we have been working with the team in the Advanced Project Management Research Centre at the University of Southampton. We've got a couple of them also on the call today, so they'll join in the Q&A. Thanks for the wave, Nick. And we've been working with them specifically using the platform and understanding a bit more kind of where we sit and how we can be useful in the qualitative analysis community. And through that work, we've kind of become aware of some of the challenges within qualitative analysis, which I will actually kind of boil down, and I'm sure there are others, to this process of collating information from lots of different places, being able to refine particular bits of information. A lot of the time our systems need us to remember when and where and who said different things for us to be able to refine it. Which is quite annoying because it becomes quite difficult to refine that information, as well as reorganizing your information in different ways based on different criteria that you might want to investigate, or just pulling it together in a slightly different way to the way in which you maybe initially input it into the system. And so with that in mind, I'm going to jump into a tutorial style workflow now, based loosely on some kind of data coding that you can do on Protolyst. And the study that I've got in the bottom down here is where the transcripts that I'll be using in this demo have come from. So it was a study on childhood flu vaccinations, which came out in 2022. So here we are in a Protolyst workspace. And before I jump into the kind of full workflow, I think there's a couple of elements of the platform that I just want to go through. So the first of which is atoms. And atoms are the scientific term that we've kind of stolen to because of what it represents, building blocks that you can assemble together into various different structures. And so atoms are, I guess, the valuable details, those like snippets, golden nuggets, highlights or key concepts that you come across in your sources. And I'm sure sitting in the quantitative analysis field, this is not new info to you. But in our system, you kind of highlight to capture, we call it capturing an atom, and the option to capture that atom appears here. So you click capture atom and that lifts your text out of the page. So in a Protolyst workspace, you lift these text snippets out of the page and they kind of exist as their own individual items within the workspace. So you can start to organize and connect them across your workspace individually. So you don't have to look inside a document to find them. So the text has been captured, I have this box here, and this tag kind of encircled text is what we call a source tag. So that means that there is always a link between your atom and the source, the original location or page, as we call it in the workspace, where you captured and created that atom. So now you can kind of see it in your text. It's highlighted. You can open up this atoms menu up in the top, and it will display all of the atoms that you've collected in a page. And I mentioned connections. So if we click on that atom to open it up again, next to this source tag, you can also add further pages and add connections. So if we click in there, and I'm just going to choose Protolyst, which is another page that I created in the workspace, we've created another tag for that atom. So that atom will display kind of in its source page and also in this connected page, as well as any other pages that I wanted to connect it to. So if I now jump into this other page, which is called resources, this is another type of page. Let me just close that. Another type of page on Protolyst, a table. And as you can see, there's an atoms property here, and that atom that I just connected from the other page to Protolyst is displaying there. So those are kind of the fundamental elements of Protolyst with the atoms and kind of adding those connections and using this atoms property for you to be able to see those atoms. And there's different kinds of information you can add into Protolyst. So each row in this table is its own page, and you can upload things like documents. So here I've got the PDF of the study that we are using the transcripts from. You can highlight text inside those, capture those as atoms. And again, when we jump back into the table, we can see that atom without needing to jump into the source. And the other type of pages that you can do are importing information from web pages. So this is the webinar page. We've got the information there. Again, highlight and capture, and that creates an atom, which also displays in that atoms property. So those are kind of the fundamentals of the atoms and the connections. So I'll move more into the actual workflow with the transcripts now. So to do that, I'm going to create a new page in Protolyst. Pages come in a few different flavors, if you will. So I'm going to use a table, and this will behave a little bit like a folder for our purposes. And when you create a table, you get a couple of properties already added into the page. We've got the atoms property, which I just went through. We've also got this subpages property. We're not really going to be using those in the workflow, so I'm going to delete it, and I'll probably do that in some of the other pages as well. And then we're going to upload the transcripts. I'm just going to upload a handful. And to upload, you can just drag and drop your files. They can be PDFs, Word documents, PowerPoints, and they'll all upload into the workspace and should populate with one file per row. My internet might be having a few funny 5 minutes. There we go. They're popping in. There we go. So we've got all of the transcripts uploaded into the workspace. And so I'm going to just call that transcripts. So now we're kind of ready to go through and collect atoms. So I know there's a few different approaches and methodologies that you can take for, creating codes and gathering information. the flow that I'm going to do is going to be based on kind of gathering significant information from within the transcripts, giving it a bit of a descriptor, and then theming it around some themes that we'll identify from the kind of research study, just to give you a flavor of how you can start to do it. So I'm going to create another table for the codes. Delete the subpages property. And then we can open up the transcripts side by side. So that's control click or command click for any of the Mac users in the audience today. Then I can open up the transcript and again capture atoms. But there's a slightly different flow that we can go for here, which will both create an atom and also allow us to add a label to it. So if I grab this one, I think I just the code. Rather than hitting capture atom, I can drag and drop it into this atoms property here. And that both creates the atom, you can see there's the source tag, and it's also added a tag to this row of the table. And so if I now update the title here, something like misdiagnosis, that label has been updated with that title. So we've both created an atom and added some labels to it in one kind of fail swoop. So we can continue working through, gathering that info, kind of adding it into new pages, creating those new pages as makes sense. If we come across any that we want to add into the same bucket that we've already created, I realize this is not actually going to be one of those, but just for the illustration purposes, you can drag and drop it in there. And again, that atom will be created with the corresponding labels. So that's, I guess, the kind of beginner workflow for starting to build up the codes. I'm now going to swap into a workspace I prepared earlier with a few more codes and information in it to show you the kind of next steps. So here I've got my kind of codes table with all of the atoms that I've collected from all the different transcripts and some kind of descriptors here. So the next element that what I'm going to show you is how you can start to theme your atoms. And as you may have guessed from me talking about the kind of labeling and tagging process, we're going to do that by adding some tags or labels to the atoms. So if I jump into this research themes table, which again I prepared earlier, I have added in a couple of themes that I will be using next with a little bit of a description here. And so when we're in the codes table, we can actually add these labels using, I guess, what we call atom filters as an element or property or feature of Protolyst. So if I jump back to this codes table and create another atoms property, I can just show you how the filters work. So where this is an atoms property, we've just got another list of all these atoms displaying here. But if we make use of a filter, so if I just pick something like the vaccine history, because any of the pages that you have in your workspace can be tags. So if I add that as a filter to the atoms property, it means that it will only display the atoms that have the vaccine history tag already added to them. So since we did vaccine history, it's just these ones are displaying. But if I were to drag an atom that wasn't displaying in here, because the atoms in that column will only display if they have the corresponding tag or label, it will add the label to the atom automatically. And this is the kind of feature that we'll be making use of to add in the, I guess, themes to these atoms. So if I just set those up quickly, atom, into research themes. Let me change that one to the other research theme. Vaccine views, update the title, it's kind of confusing otherwise. And then the final one in the atoms research themes. Decision. We've got the kind of 3 buckets around which we can start to theme or group the atoms that we have here around. So to add the tags, we can just kind of review the atom, drag and drop them into the corresponding theme that we want them to go in. And you can select a group of them using Control to drag and drop kind of multiple. Again, I'm kind of just making them up a little bit. This one still had the vaccine history tag that I added to it previously, which is why it has suddenly appeared in this row. If you wanted to remove a tag at any point, you can open up the atom and just delete it like so, and it will remove the tag. So you can work your way through the list. Let me just drag and drop a few more into some of these properties to show the other elements of the workflow. So we've got some of the atoms kind of grouped around the different themes now. And we can go back to the research themes, and where we have added the atoms into the corresponding columns, we've now got a kind of full list of all of the atoms that we've kind of grouped into that bucket, as it were. So you can open up the row of the table as its own page. And this hasn't been set up or initialized as a page just yet, but you can choose again from any one of these flavors. So if you wanted to then do any kind of subcategorization, there's options to do that. I won't cover that today, but I will show you some of the kind of summarization that we can do with the atoms that you've collected. So if we set this up as a kind of text editor page, we can open up the atoms menu, which is that list of all the atoms. I picked one where I've actually only allocated one atom to it, unfortunately. But what you can do is like pull the atoms into the page, and then you can start to use them to write and pull them together and consolidate them and identify any kind of themes. And when you use your atom, the source tag information sets up, I guess, like a citation and a reference. So you can always jump back to that original transcript and where you kind of lifted that piece of text out of the page to kind of check any kind of further context or see if there was any additional information that you might want to review. So that's, I guess, a bit of a flow as to how you can kind of pull different bits of information together using the atoms and the tags and the labels. Something else that I've seen people do is want to kind of display that information in different ways. So with those atom filters, we can set up tables to display particular bits of information. So where we'd gone through in the codes table, and we'd set up those filters to be able to theme and label the atoms by the different themes that we wanted to put them into. We also have information in the atoms about which participant or transcript that information came from. So you could go back into your participants table. And again, here's one I prepared earlier. You can add in those kind of atoms and filters and kind of get a breakdown by participant of the information and where it has come from and where it has been themed to. I guess that I will probably stop there just in the interest of time and lots of information being thrown at people. I can see there's quite a lot of questions that have come through. I guess the final elements, and I hope that that's given you a bit of a flavor as to kind of atoms and how you can start to categorize and organize them in various different ways using Protolyst. I think I've got kind of one final last thing to go through. Is that, yes, if you are interested in this, as we've been doing this as like a productivity combined with qualitative analysis, we're really interested in getting your input in the kind of future directions for how we take this forward, like what would be interesting and useful to you for qualitative analysis in this platform. So if it was compelling or interesting in any way, please do get in touch. We would love to get your feedback and thoughts to help us drive it forward. You can get started on Protolyst for free. It's unlimited time to do that. And when it's time to upgrade, we do have a discount available at the moment with the code STAGE20. A lot of people we've been working with that have been using Protolyst have said that one of the things they really, really liked about it was that they could do some of this analysis, but they can also do some kind of wraparound project-related work. So they could do things like research and take notes on the literature, add in their own notes and kind of gather those atoms and information and collate and organize other things to do with their project alongside their analysis. So we'll be continuing this development specifically in the quantitative analysis with some further workshops as part of the SAGE concept grant in collaboration with Southampton. So if you're interested in joining those, please do let us know. There's a QR code link here which has these links available if you follow it on screen at the moment. So yeah, that's kind of a bit of an intro and flavor. We do have some other videos on our YouTube channel which kind of introduce some of these other workflows that some of our other users have been doing. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a bit of a taster as to how you can start to connect information and build that sort of powerful network of knowledge using a system like Protolyst. So I guess that's kind of demo done. Probably time to do the Q&A. Shall I invite everyone here to join in with? So I'll hand back over to you, Daniela.
Yeah, for sure. I saw that Richard has been answering some of the questions already. So I wonder if you just want to pick some of them up. So sorting data by kind of demographics of participants, and there were some other questions like how it compares with NVivo.
Yeah, yeah, I'm happy for you to keep sharing your screen, Maddy. But a good one to demonstrate could be the sorting the participants by a demographic in the table.
Completely. Stop sharing. Yes, so in this workspace that I prepared earlier, I did add some of the demographic info into this participants table. So you can set up different views on Protolyst. So this table here is set up to display these various properties, and there's a few different property types available for you to be able to have, kind of a series of fixed options to kind of display to people, numbers, kind of yes, no, true, false type setup. And these can then be used to set up, filters or queries on all of the data in the table so that you could separate it out by, the age of the children or, whether the child was vaccinated. So you can set that up with what we call them filters. So if I were to change this to preschool child vaccinated is equal to kind of unchecked, so the non-vaccinated group, and then you could kind of display the kind of themed data. So again, I have these properties already set up. These are the filtered atoms for the different themes. So we can scroll along the table and kind of see just the information from the participants in the study that did not have their children vaccinated, as is the case study here. So in that way, you can kind of group different bits of information together. Was that what you were referring to, Rick?
Absolutely, yeah. And just to follow that up, someone's just asked if you can export a table as CSV.
Yes, you can. So in the top right of the corner, next to that kind of atoms menu that I mentioned previously, there's a load of page options, one of which is to download and save as CSV. So that will download the table as you see it, and it will give you kind of the atoms all displayed within the various fields of that table.
There's a follow-up to that, which is if you can export them into a Word doc, and if you can also, on the import side, so can you import SurveyMonkey, Qualtrics, and other types of responses into Protolyst for coding?
Do you want to take the import element of that, Rick?
Sure, importing. So the way we usually encourage importing is to download things as PDFs and import them. PDFs are our kind of most robust file types, but we do also have a built-in form feature in Protolyst that that's something that we help you set up, and you can quite easily host it, and you can get responses coming into your tables like this, and subsequently use the data within them. But we are interested in, there are a lot of survey tools out there, so we're currently interested in kind of exploring which ones to prioritize, and we're also looking at tools like Zapier, which basically enable you to connect apps. So hopefully that will enable us to more seamlessly connect with a large variety of external tools like SurveyMonkey. I can't remember the first part of the question, Maddy. Do you remember it? No?
It was about exporting themes and the data into a Word doc.
Yes, you can. I don't want to overwhelm with too much like tables maneuvering, because I feel like I've done a lot of that already. But yes, we do have like a view of a table. So if I go back to this one where we've got kind of the transcript and the atoms, and this view of the table doesn't have that filter applied that I just had, separating out the vaccinated and unvaccinated. You can create a view, which we call vertical view, which basically like transposes the table to look a bit more like a document. So it displays it in this kind of style. And you can download this as a document if you wanted to have all the information like that. And that gives you, yeah, just all the atoms displaying as like just text, if that was what you were looking for.
There's also some exciting features here where you can compile your extracted annotations into a written text block, similar to what Maddy showed you before, where you can bring in the annotations and it automatically references for you, and you can view those snippets in this particular view as well, and that can be exported. So what you can really end up with is transforming your table. In the case of the themes table, you could transform that into a report quite easily, download it as a Word document, and then do kind of any finishing touches that you might want to do in Word. Yeah, I mean, usually that's a kind of formatting, to be honest. So.
For the recorded portion of this webinar, there were some questions around literature review. So kind of the citation and the workflow, if you can mention those.
Yeah, so for this one, Maddy, if you could switch to your previous workspace, I'm hoping that we'd be able to go to resources. And I mean, one person mentioned citations. I'm hoping that if you added the property citation, Maddy, sorry, the citation property. There we go. Yeah, so as you can see here, it's automatically extracted the citation from the one piece of academic literature that we did upload. The other two are one's a website and one's a kind of text editor where we've written notes. So yes, you're able to manage your citations on Protolyst. And the nice thing is when you do incorporate your atoms of knowledge into your written documents, like Maddy showed earlier, if it's automatically extracted a citation, it will adopt that citation when you drag it in, and you can reference and cite as you'd hope to. And yes, it works with PDFs. It works with there you go. So yeah, Maddy's just dragged the atom in, and it automatically references and generates your reference, and then that is again exportable as a Word doc. As I mentioned, PDFs are our kind of primary file type, and most pieces of academic literature kind of come with a PDF. We are currently working on a web clipper, which makes it easier to get your academic literature when you're browsing Google Scholar or however you do find your literature into Protolyst, just so it's one click rather than a couple.
Excellent. A follow-up question on that was the just now from Laura on additional reference files. As some universities have specific files.
Yes, we do have more coming. I kind of gave a little sneak peek of the ones that we have available here. We're adding more to them. We're also going to soon be rolling out one where you can customize the reference style that you want to have. So if for whatever reason the info that comes in isn't correct, you can edit the citation. So you'll be able to kind of build your own custom citation style based on these different properties. And equally, if you want something else, do just let us know. We're more than happy to add it in for you.
Yeah, I was going to say they're actually quite quick to add the different citation styles. So if there is a bespoke one that you need, just let us know. And yeah, our community is really quite active, and we try to build what people want. So
there was a question from Yannick on visuals. So is it possible to work on visuals or recordings? And if not yet, if you plan to include this functionality?
yeah, good question. So with recordings, we have at the moment we have YouTube videos. I think I'm hoping that kind of fits into the category of recordings. So you're able to upload YouTube videos, and you're able to work on them and atomize those. So you, as I mentioned in the chat, you could, when you receive the kind of recording of this session, you can import the URL. It will extract the transcript, and then you can annotate. That's one of my favorite ways to work with that. With visuals, I'm not entirely sure what you mean, but we are working on being able to capture instead of just text as atoms, we're working on being able to capture images. So what we have in a development branch of the platform is you're able to drag a certain area of the page and capture that as an atom, and it will be an attached image to that atom. And then you can also add text and labels, and hopefully be able to search your images as well. That's really interesting to us, actually. And so if you did want to get in touch for that specific workflow, happy to kind of talk to you about it. Maddy has also created a nice video elsewhere, which I'll link in the chat now, on how we currently work with images in Protolyst. But I think there's room for improvement there.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. So hopefully that solves my my echo problem. There is a question on integration between users. So I presume around collaboration. So can multiple people work on the same table?
Yes, absolutely. This is it was built kind of collaborative first. So if I go to data coding 1, where Maddy is now, and if you go to the codes table, Maddy, you can see I can type hello, and it should appear. And likewise, you can capture atoms on the fly, and yeah, it's a collaborative first platform. That's why it's on the web. It really kind of enables you to work on this wherever you go. It doesn't have to be downloaded. You can open it on your laptop at home. You can open it on your computer at university.
Yeah, and so also every atom that you add, it will show up kind of your initials from your username. So you'd be able to see, I think soon, sort. So you could separate out who has collected which atoms. I guess if you wanted to double check everyone's on the same page with the, I guess, theming, particularly in this kind of field, that's a thing that will be coming soon.
I'm curious. I have a question, actually. I'm curious about the structure. So, for example, if you're working on multiple projects, maybe let's say I'm working on my research project and analyzing my transcripts, but I'm also contributing to someone else's, and then I'm doing a literature review that's either related or unrelated. So let's say if I'm like, can I connect the atoms between different projects that I'm working on, or is it kind of each atom is related to individual sort of like, I don't know, verticals or projects?
I think it is closer to the latter. We have this concept called workspaces. So Maddy's in one workspace at the moment called Data Coding Part 1, which you can see in the top left. But there are ways to bring together workspaces, multiple workspaces into one, what we lovingly refer to as a share space. And so we do see some people doing just that, and they connect them. getting them to talk to each other sometimes can be a bit harder with the tags and whatnot, but it is a useful way to at least see all of the data in the same place. What we have built the platform on top of is, as I mentioned, this collaborative infrastructure. And so what's coming soon is, if you just wanted one workspace, as you just mentioned, which you're kind of looking at one particular topic, but perhaps you want to collaborate with 2 people on one page and 3 people on another, we are working on the ability to share a specific page. So here you might just want to share your transcripts table with myself, but you want to share the codes and another page with another individual. So we are working on that, and that will be released fairly soon, actually.
Excellent. There, Janelle has a follow-up question: if coding can be compared between coders, so if you have a collaborative coding.
Yes. This is something that we have, been talking about a lot. So we've kind of got this, well, there's like metadata in the atoms, where you can see who it's been created by. So we have everything set up. We just don't quite yet have the ability to kind of separate them out in quite that way. But yes, yeah, it is possible, definitely.
So what Maddy was alluding to before was we have the as you can see, it has Maddy's initials on that atom, and then what you're able to do, that she's already shown, is filter the atom columns. At the moment, the filters are by tags only. So if you just click on the filters infrastructure, yeah, so if you can filter by tags, it would be quite easy for us to, as you can see, we've even started it here on Maddy's account. It's not fully developed yet, but you're able to filter by the individual that did capture that atom. So what we'll have is multiple columns, one for each individual.
And that should supposedly help you see the overlap between individual coders, or where there might be some differences.
Daniela, I wonder, sorry, I've got a question. Can we get the chat from this I suppose we'll have the recording actually, but there's a load of insights here. I'm really grateful for all the questions actually, because I'm learning what you guys want and what you guys need. So it's really interesting to see all the questions coming in.
Yeah, I'm sure we could probably manage that. There is one question I think we missed from earlier from Janelle around screenshotting and coding websites or images on websites. So I guess kind of like as you're browsing through the internet, or do you have to always come back to Protolyst and work within the app itself?
Yeah, so we absolutely can do websites. I think Maddy showed one of them earlier, and likewise the YouTube video is similar. So here we've taken the Sage Concept Grant webpage. This is a web page from the internet, and what our software does is it gets rid of all the stuff that you don't want to see, all of the banner ads, and I'm sure Sage doesn't have banner ads, but anything that you don't want to see, and then so you can have a kind of a clean, clutter-free reading experience and annotate from there. And also, as I mentioned before, the web clipper that we're developing will hopefully enable you to very quickly, rather than having to copy and paste the URL into Protolyst, it'll be one button. It will automatically go into your resources folder, and then you can annotate from there as well. Again, just to save a couple of clicks.
Cool, thanks. So there's always, I haven't seen this question today, but we always get the question of, well, where's my data saved? And sort of like, can I export all of it out? Or sort of like questions around that aspect. Obviously, some people work with transcripts. There's personal or person identifiable information in there. So do you have anything to deal with those issues?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a cloud-based app. So we store our data in the cloud. Specifically, we use Google Cloud. All of the data is encrypted in transit and also at rest. security has always been very much a kind of priority for us. We do have export options, and it's a question we get asked a lot as well. And so it's something that we're constantly expanding. As you saw before, we have the exporters CSV, we have exporters Word document. What we're currently working on is potentially being able to sync your data from Protolyst to other platforms if you need it, as I mentioned with that Zapier integration, and also just a download everything to your computer if you need it. But yeah, it's something that we get asked a lot, and always interested in kind of helping people feel comfortable with how their data is handled and stored. And yeah, at the moment we do not have a desktop only version, as it's a collaborative app. We do store the data in the cloud.
Excellent, thank you. So I think I don't see any more questions coming through, and I hope we haven't missed any. I think maybe before closing, you can remind folks where they can sign up and what options they have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing I will say before we take you to the landing page is, we're working with the University of Southampton to run workshops in the coming weeks and months to continue to have these conversations that we've just been having, and hopefully to learn more. We use Protolyst to build Protolyst. All of the information that we get from you, we will put into our system, and we'll label it, and we'll try to develop a better understanding of what the community needs. So we're going to be running some workshops. Maddy's got the link there, which maybe you can post in the chat, Maddy. Amazing. Yeah, it's all there. And so that would be amazing if I saw some familiar names in those workshops, happy to talk through your specific needs and workflows. And then if you just want to get started on with Protolyst on your own, then yeah, head to protolyst.org. And as Daniela mentioned at the beginning, we do have a discount code at the moment, SAGE20, if you wanted to upgrade your account to the Pro plan. Yeah, it is an unlimited free trial. So we don't limit it on time, because I don't think that's a good way to use a knowledge management platform. How are you supposed to actually start to get value out of the platform if you're only able to use it for 2 weeks or whatever? But at the moment we limit it by the number of pages, so 100 pages. So that equates to maybe 80 uploaded files and 20 codes, or 50 uploaded files and 50 codes. At which point, if you want to continue to expand, then that's going to start to take up more data on the servers. So we do ask at that point for you to upgrade your account.
Can I jump in with a couple of comments? Would that be okay? Just to share with the community. So I just want to thank, obviously, Maddy and Rick and Sage for putting on this event, and also just to say thank you for everyone who's attended today. Just to give you a very brief perspective from our point of view, I think our position is that we've echoed a lot of what's been said in the comments. And I think as a community and all the attendees and participants that are here today, this is such a good opportunity to be able to actually engage directly with the organization in terms of Protolyst. And it's a really good opportunity to be able to actually provide your feedback. As researchers, regardless of the level in terms of your career, I think some of the tools out there do achieve some things, but I think we all experience quite a lot of pain points. And there is very much a detach between our experience as end users and what we are able to feed back into the organization to be able to get those updates and get something that's more suited to our style of work. And I've seen some really good comments in there in terms of people using specific platforms and obviously getting frustrated with those and looking for alternatives. And it's not very often that we come across these particular enterprises and organizations and opportunities around being able to actually get involved as part of that development process. So I just want to reiterate what Rick and Maddy is saying, essentially, which is continued conversation. Let's obviously get involved. Let's provide some feedback. Tell us what frustrates you. Tell us what your pain points are, so that we can actually go and develop this into a much better platform that responds directly to what you need. And just as a final point, really, it's been an absolute pleasure just working from an academic perspective, and myself and the team. We've got Dr. Hao Dong, Dr. Al-Mhdawi, and Dr. David Baxter, myself, Dr. Nicholas Dacre, and we've all been working, obviously, with Protolyst and Maddy and Rick Barnes, and the rest of the team to obviously provide some first-hand feedback through some of the workshops and that we've been doing. So yeah, I would just reiterate that point. Do get involved. It's your opportunity. If you're using a platform at the minute and you're getting frustrated with it, which we have experienced, all of us, this is the opportunity to get those pain points addressed and developed.
Great. Thank you. Thank you all. I think there was another question about the pricing, but Maddy, you've addressed that. Thank you, Maddy and Rick, for a great session, and Nicholas for a good round up of the session and engaging everyone to contribute by sharing their pain points. Yeah. We'll conclude here, and if there are any more questions, do feel free to reach back to us. We'll send the recording, and also we're happy to kind of connect everyone with Maddy and Rick. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers.